Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, man, we got the best and worst NBA players from every NBA team. Video by Austin Sweat. Link to his channel in the description below. So this is gonna be interesting to watch because, you know, like the best player, I think that's relatively easy to do in most cases. For the worst player, I have a feeling he's probably gonna do more like worst known player, because I think like the Pistons, he'll probably have Darko listed, right? But you go back to the 2014-2015 Pistons, and you got Joel Embiid Anthony right here, man. Joel Embiid, Carmelo Anthony Davis, Baron. Sorry. At 1.8 points per game, man. It's like, I don't think Darko is any worse than that. So we're going to see if it's known players or at least got like 10-day contract players listed here, man. Yo, Crump probably explained to D, didn't he, man? Tayshaun Prince, he was not happy to come back to the team then. Josh Smith. Ugh. Let's get it.
Today we look at the best and worst NBA players from every NBA team to see where these teams have been at the highest of highs.
Yo, also, if you are new to the channel, man, I'm trying to get back to the days of getting 300, 400 brand new subscribers, man. I'm trying to get back to the glory days, man. Hit that subscribe button. Help me grow this channel, man. We getting like close to 200K. We're getting there, man. Slow but steady.
Close. We're only using each player
like the
once
tortoise.
To let go. The best player to have ever played for the Chicago Bulls is obviously
Michael Jordan.
Who is still the greatest player of all time, but the worst
Carlos
player
Boozer.
that ever played for the franchise is without a doubt Tyrese Thomas.
I love Tyrese!
The worst player, but Bulls fans will always remember the fact that they drafted LaMarcus Aldridge second overall.
Tyrese from Florida, I believe, right, man? I used to be nasty with him on 2K because he could like shoot the midi a little bit, but this man could throw it down. I used to love Tyrese Thomas, man. I love hearing that name.
Traded him the same night to get the number 4 pick.
Oh, I love Tyrese Thomas,
who never accomplished anything.
Played the Bobcats for a bit.
Milwaukee Bucks' best all-time player is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who still holds the slight edge.
Worst is probably Giannis.
Still take it one day.
JK.
The all-time worst player was Robert Traylor, who they once drafted 9th overall, but he only ended up playing 2 seasons for the team.
Track Traylor, man.
Issues and injuries in both, only playing a total of 93 games for them. So
he was pretty good player though, wasn't he?
The all-time best Los Angeles Lakers player is going to be Magic Johnson. Kobe's the best Laker ever, but Magic was the best player to have ever played for the team. With his 5 titles and 3 league MVPs in just 13 seasons.
That's actually a pretty fair statement. I think that's a good way to look at it. Like talent-wise, I mean, come on, Kobe's right up there too, though. But yeah, no, I like that.
Or so LA's seen some pretty deep lows. I think right now Luol Deng is LA's all-time worst player because he was given a 4-year, $72 million deal and only played in 57 games for them. And it wasn't his fault. The Lakers just decided to stop playing him. But I think in a few years we'll look back and say that Westbrook
was a goat on the Bulls.
Worst, just for the fact that he was brought in to help LeBron and AD win a championship in LeBron's last few years in the league. And now he's kind of stopped that from happening, putting a sour taste on the end of LeBron's
they're not gonna make the
On the other hand, Deng's contract was given when not much else was going on for the Lakers. For the New York Knicks, their best player is Walt Frazier, who was involved as a leader in both of the team's only 2 NBA titles.
Sideburns, man.
He's an elite guard and is still one of the best players of all time. But those titles were won over 50 years ago, and the Knicks have seen a lot of terrible stuff since then. But the worst Knicks player ever was Jerome James, who was averaging 5 points and
Yo, what about Eddie Curry? What about Eddie Curry, man? Was that was the Knicks, wasn't it? Eddie Curry. I could have sworn, man. Sorry, I had to bring up the basketball reference. Eddie Curry? Okay, yeah, he did play in New York. Oh. Yo, what? Eddie Curry was a beast. 20 and 7. Y'all got like the Steph Curry stats mixed up? I didn't know Eddie Curry had it like that. Damn, baby Shaq. I'll take the L on that one, man. No. Like, I'm going to gobble that bitch up, bro. Damn, man.
Got a 5-year
Eddie Curry was a beast.
Then went on to play only 90 games for the team over the next 5 years and averaged 2 points and 1 rebound a game in what was one of the worst contracts of all time. With the Atlanta Hawks, obviously their best player is Dominique Wilkins. It's going to take a lot for someone to pass him all time based on the 10+ year career he had for
Trey can do to get title in Atlanta.
All of them. Their worst player wasn't even bad.
Tree Rollins.
He's a Hall of Famer. He had a great career for the Celtics, but now the only reason people usually ever know or hear his name is because he was that guy that got traded to the Hawks in exchange for Bill Russell, and that's pretty rough. The best player ever for the Spurs is obviously Tim Duncan, while the worst is Alfredrick Hughes. And do you know how hard it was to actually find a bad player on the Spurs that they had signed or drafted? The Houston Rockets' all-time greatest is Hakeem Olajuwon, who won the team back-to-back titles the year MJ
Russell Westbrook.
And Hakeem could do it all on both ends of the floor. Plus, he was a good leader, which is why some people call him one of the most complete basketball players ever. On the other hand, Royce White is the worst that Houston's ever seen. They drafted him 16th overall, but he never played a single game, basically because he was scared of flying on planes. The Portland Trailblazers...
I don't know if I particularly like that take there. I don't think that... I think that Royce was a great NBA player. I don't think he was a bad player. I do think that he had things that held him back mentally wise, like the plane being one of the things, but I think it goes beyond that scope. I don't think it was a reflection of him as a basketball player. Like, I don't think the reflection of, Greg Oden, and how great he could have been was a reflection of, like, his injury. But we're gonna see Greg Oden's listed here, I guess, right? Here we go.
Who's best, at least in my mind, is Damian Lillard, who slightly beats out Clyde Drexler.
What about Brandon Roy?
Though is Sam Bowie. We could have gone the route of Greg Oden, but with him they missed out on Kevin Durant. But with Sam,
yeah,
Bowie,
I don't correlate
on the greatest of all time.
Injuries and stuff with busts, in my opinion.
Of course, is Dirk Nowitzki. Even though one day Luka could take this one, but it's no surprise it's still Dirk. As for the worst, I'd have to say Rajon Rondo, who Dallas got.
Good choice.
Celtics run.
Based off the circumstance.
For him, and he ended up being a problem.
What about Brian Cardinal?
And sitting out for the playoffs. The Charlotte Hornets spot goes to Kemba Walker.
Yeah, I gotta look at Brian Cardinal now. I'm so sorry, man. Like, Brian Cardinal. Y'all remember, man? Cardinal. There he is. He's on the Mavericks, right? Hey, okay. Last few seasons there. Probably picked him in 2K because he was shooting 20% from 3. This season, I probably picked him in 2K when he's shooting 48%, though, man. Probably easy for my leagues and stuff. That was before I was doing my league, though.
Even though I think eventually LaMelo Ball,
at least for videos, doing my own time.
Arguments for that one. Well, you could make an argument for Adam Morrison being their all-time worst, but I'm instead giving that to Vlade Divac, who they infamously traded Kobe Bryant for, and Vlade only played there for 2 pointless seasons. The Phoenix Suns' all-time best at this current point in time is still Steve Nash for the multiple deep playoff runs, the 2 MVPs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe in a few years, if the Suns keep up their success, I could give this.
Worst is a center. I forgot his name.
How great Steve was. While everyone will forget Dragon Bender, who Phoenix wasted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was thinking, who was I thinking of? I think I was thinking of a dude named Steven. Is there a Steven Hunter in the NBA that played for the Suns before? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, there is. Back in 2004, 2005. Yes, sir, man. 4.6 points per game. Better than Dragon Bender. Not a better name, but a better stat line.
We're seeing all-time greatness from them today by way of Nikola Jokic. But back in 2002, we saw their worst player in Nicolas, who they drafted 5th overall, and the man never averaged 4 points per game. Shot 30% for his career and was out of the NBA after only 4 seasons.
Good choice.
For the Minnesota Timberwolves, obviously their best player of all time is Kevin Garnett, the only Wolves player to have ever won a league MVP. And even though he never won a championship,
worst of all time,
part of that might have been because the worst player of all time played at the same time as KG, and it was Joe Smith, who signed with the Wolves back in 1999 as a free agent. He wasn't too much more than an average player.
He went all over the place.
On an under-the-table contract that was so cheap it was illegal, so that the team could be good now and he would get a bigger deal later on. Well, David Stern found out about it and stripped the Wolves of 5 first-round picks from 2001 to 2005, right in the middle of KG's prime. The Toronto Raptors spot for the top goes to
Forgot about
Lowry.
that. 5 picks.
Kawhi Leonard led them to their championship, but it wouldn't have happened without all the sacrifices Kyle made that season. And combine that with the rest of his long tenure there, and it's
I respect that.
While the worst player is Rafael Araujo, who was picked 8th overall and played 3 seasons in the league. Not good ones either. Of course, the Magic's all-time greatest was Dwight Howard, who will take the spot for a while. While their worst is honestly a two-way tie between Serge Ibaka and Fran Vazquez.
Longevity, I guess.
Ibaka by trading Oladipo and Sabonis.
And he got to the finals, Dwight did.
Hurts my head to think about, and the fact that Serge left after that season makes it that much worse. While Fran Vazquez was drafted 11th by Orlando, then he just decided to stay overseas and never play in the NBA. With the LA Clippers, their spot is obviously taken by Chris Paul, and their worst spot is obviously taken by Michael Olowokandi, who was picked 1st overall and became one of the biggest draft busts of all time. For the Utah Jazz, Karl Malone is their guy, while John Drew is their worst. And you might not immediately even remember who John Drew was, which already says something.
Related to Uncle?
Just know that he was the guy that, along with Freeman Williams, that this team traded away Dominique Wilkins for right after they drafted him. The spot for the Heat goes to Dwayne Wade thanks to his long career for the team and the multiple championships that he brought them. Not only did he show that he could lead the team to a title, but he showed that he could also take a back seat and be a second option.
I don't know, would you guys say that LeBron's greatest years, I would say, like, I guess legacy-wise, I think of LeBron as a Cav, but, like, year-wise, his best use was probably, most efficiently, was probably on the Miami Heat, wasn't it? But I understand, like, I do appreciate that Austin Sweat is going beyond just, like, who was, like, the best player. Like, best can be for different reasons, and longevity and just, like, loyalty and stuff like that is a big part of it, in my opinion.
A championship. And speaking of LeBron, Michael Beasley was drafted 2nd overall by the Heat 2 years before.
Be-Easy was nice, though.
Which should have made him the perfect compliment as a young player.
I love Michael Beasley, though.
But he turned out to be bad enough that the team basically just had to dump his salary after his 2nd season. The Cavaliers then had LeBron James as their all-time best player, and nothing else needs to be said. But we can say something about their worst and
Anthony Bennett. Yeah.
Who by most people's opinion, and just straight facts, is the biggest NBA bust of all time. The 76ers have
Y'all hear that, Darko
legendary Hall of
fans?
Famers throughout their time, but
We ain't the
Darko
worst.
still stands at the top of the ladder.
Or fans,
While
I
no
guess,
one would argue
enemies?
that Andrew Bynum stands at the bottom. Ever since that dude left the Lakers, he was just a giant walking dumpster fire on every team that he landed on.
He had knee
Philly lost out on
injuries.
some great players trading for Bynum, which hurt even more. Over in Boston, nothing.
Yeah,
should
he
be
was a
said
victim
about
of the
Bill
lower
Russell
body
being
injuries,
their
being a
GOAT, and
7-footer.
nothing should be said either about Vin Baker being their worst of all time. The Celtics traded for him for some
What about
reason,
Rafe
and
LaFrance?
after he
That's a
developed
person,
a
right?
drinking
That
problem-
exists. Rafe. How do you spell that? Sounds like a Elden Ring character. Yeah, Rafe LaFrance. He was a good player though, wasn't he? Some respectful years, man. I'm in for Boston, not so much. Yeah, Portland, he just gave up. He's like, I ain't playing basketball no more, man. 1 point, so give me my contract. Yo, what was that contract in this final year, man? How much money did you get? $12 million. Oh my goodness.
Got to weighing over
Oh my
300
goodness.
pounds and was released just 2 years later. With the Pacers, Reggie Miller has this one. He never brought them a title, but
Worst
got close
for-
for years. Had a couple finals runs, but
Jeff
just
Foster.
couldn't get over the
No, good
top.
offensive
Still gave the
rebounder.
team more than enough memories to look back on. While on the other hand, most people have probably never heard of Rick Roby, but he's worth a mention
Nope.
given the fact that
Rick
Indiana
Roby.
drafted him 3rd overall in 1978,
Rick Roll.
and he was terrible. What makes it even worse is that they picked him when Larry Bird was still on the board. It's pretty
Ooh.
weird that for the Wizards, Wes Unseld is their best player almost 50 years later, and a guy like John Wall or Bradley Beal has never taken
Yo,
his
about
spot.
Gilbert
But it
Arenas.
is what it is,
Hibachi.
and the Wizards' worst player, who needs about as least of a description as anyone on this
Kwame
list, is
Brown.
Kwame Brown. For the Nets, I'm giving their all-time best spot to Kevin Durant, and seeing how this list has gone and how these past couple of years have gone, I'm giving their worst spot to Kyrie Irving because he was the main reason their super team broke up, and I think in a few years.
See, I would have preferred KD to be listed for the Thunder, because I do think that, and I know he probably wants to have Russell Westbrook right there though, but Kevin Durant has not done enough for this Nets team for me to have him as the greatest net of all time. Like I don't know, I just feel like that's disrespectful towards like Jason Kidd, Vince Carter to an extent. Although he was really good on the Raptors too and everything. Who else? Brooke Lopez, all-time leading scorer for them. Julius Erving, although I think that was more like ABA, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't know.
We'll look back at this time in a negative light, like we have for some of these other worst players. For the OKC Thunder, since we already.
Oh yeah,
mentioned
Kyrie
him,
is the
we'll get his
worst.
best spot
Damn.
to Gary Payton, who was a ruthless defender and one of the stars on his
Yeah,
team
Kyrie
alongside
is the
Shawn
worst.
Kemp for years. Their most infamous player, on the other hand, was Olden Polynice. But in 1987, the Sonics drafted Scottie Pippen 5th overall, then traded him right away for the 8th overall pick, aka Olden Polynice. For the Memphis Grizzlies, it might be premature, but I'm giving their best spot to Ja Morant. Sure,
I'm
they've
cool
had
with it.
Marc Gasol and Mike Conley,
I'm cool
who
with
were
it.
stars for years and led them to great playoff runs. But we've never seen a Grizzlies player with the skill and the ability to.
And I'm cool with it, and to the extent of, yes, I know with Kevin Durant, like, well, longevity, like, he hasn't been there long enough, and John Morant obviously hasn't either, but I think there's more great players in the Nets history where it's like, there's like other guys could be brought up to the point where it's like the Grizzlies history. I mean, yes, you got Marc Gasol, yes, you got Pau Gasol, Mike Conley, but like beyond that, like, it's pretty like slim pickings for like all-time historically great players on the Memphis Grizzlies.
Numbers that Ja has. Well, for their worst, some might say Hashim Thabit, but I never saw a home team player get booed the way that Chandler Parsons did. And I never saw a player waste away an NBA contract the way that Chandler did for the Memphis Grizzlies.
But he also had injury issues, I believe.
The Oscar Robertson, and their all-time worst is a guy named Purvis Ellison, who the Kings
Purvis.
picked 1st overall in 1989 and traded
Purvis, man.
after only one season.
I'm naming my
Shout out to the
firstborn
Kings.
Purvis.
For the
Boy or
Pelicans,
girl?
the spot would go
It's
to
gonna
Chris
be
Paul,
Purvis.
but since he already had the Clipper spot, it goes to Anthony Davis.
Purvis,
With
bitch
no
ass
real
Flakes,
opportunity.
the third.
While their
My name's
worst player
Purvis, by the way.
sadly goes to DeMarcus Cousins. He put up huge numbers when he got there, but the fact that they traded Buddy Hield for him and he only lasted 40 games or so before getting injured.
Hey, that ain't his fault.
lands him here.
Not his fault.
Player, at least in my mind,
Got
is,
injured.
of course, Steph Curry, who I placed here over Wilt Chamberlain due to his success in terms of championships and changing the game. While the worst player is Joe Barry Carroll. The Warriors traded from
Joe
the 3rd
Barry
spot in the
Carroll,
draft to
man.
number 1 in order to draft him. While the Celtics then went on to take Kevin McHale 3rd overall, who was the best player that year. So the Warriors traded up and selected the wrong guy, who wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great either.
Looked
Then
like a
finally, we have the
Walmart
Detroit
Larry
Pistons,
Johnson.
and their all-time best player is Isaiah Thomas, to bring in the Bad Boys Pistons to consecutive NBA championships over some all-time NBA legends.
Yeah.
And everyone knows their all-time worst is Darko Milicic, who had no business even being drafted in the 1st round in 2003, but went 2nd over.
That's just not true. That's just not true. Like, hindsight is 90/70. It's like you can look back at that, but if you look at the draft, like, yes, it was a case where guy did not work out, but if you look at all the scouts, everybody was saying that Darko was going to be like a generational talent. Like, he had the skill set overseas, it just did not translate. He didn't have the passion for basketball. I think to say like he had no business. Okay, yes, it was a big time risk, and in hindsight, obviously Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Carmelo Anthony should have been like the move and everything like that. But like, it wasn't a case where they were just like, well, let's just take this guy at number 2. Like, there was reasoning behind it, just like there was reasoning behind taking Anthony Bennett. Although, I will say Anthony Bennett doing number 1, right? Like, that was just... I do remember even in that time, a lot of people were like, okay, like, he can be a good player, but number 1? I don't know, I just didn't really get, like, that vibe around that time for, like, Darko, like, oh, he went number 2? Like, but also I was, like, 11, so...
For Melo, Bosh, and Wade. If there's anything I missed, comment and let me know.
All right, that is the end of the video. That was actually really interesting, though. Like, I do think it led to, like, some really good discussion and everything. So that's all we got for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace out, my friends.